Shalom, shalom. This is Elder Isaac Hill of the Stores of Truth Ministries, sharing with you another scripture nugget. Today's scripture nugget is found in the book of Bereshith, or in the book of Genesis, chapter 11, if you will. We'll read about Nimrod in Genesis chapter 11. I'm reading from the ISR, and it says, "And all the earth had one language and one speech. And it came to be as they set from the east that they found, or set out from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to each other, Come, let us make bricks, and make them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens, and make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over all the face of the earth." And what I find interesting about this particular number of verses is that we all know that this is referencing the Tower of Babel. And we know at that time that Nimrod was the leader of men at that time. The fascinating thing about this tower, as it reads in verse 4, it says, Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Now, when you think about that, from the normal Western mindset, you're thinking they're going to build a tower that's going to go and scale all the way up through the clouds, and all the way up past the clouds, and all the way into the heavens. Well, when you think about that, you kind of see that that's really virtually impossible. So what is being implied here? There's something greater than that. And we know how that Elohim came down and he confused the languages and they were scattered. But how could a person, as we're talking about Nimrod and Tower of Babel, how could a person have such power and such a mindset to influence other people to follow him and to buy into this same type of theology or this same type of mentality that we can actually build something from the earth that reaches the heavens? Again, that's mind-boggling, but it's also impossible. And so, even though that perhaps in the Western culture we have this image of someone building a tower that high, in essence, it wasn't built that high. What we want to show here in the scripture is that there's something else being referred to. Because again, you cannot build a tower from the earth to the heavens. Not in that regard, how we think the Tower of Babel was built. So what is being implied here? First of all, you have to understand the mindset of Nimrod. In I believe the early part in Bereshith chapter 10, it basically describes the type of man Nimrod was. Again, I'm reading from the ISR, and I'm reading Bereshith, or Genesis chapter 10, verse 8 and 9. It says here, And Cush brought forth Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before Yah. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yah. Again, in Christendom, before all the truth and the understanding came forth from these verses, there was a belief that Nimrod was chosen by Yah, and he was favored by Yah. In other words, he was a good guy, until the truth began to come out to find out exactly what these verses were saying. And so when it says that he was a mighty hunter, it means he was an opposer. And not only was he an opposer and he was defiant of Yah, but he was also had a desire to make it known that he opposed Yah. And what he was doing, he began to go throughout the land and build cities and build villages and so forth, in which other people did not know Yah at that time. They wasn't aware of Elohim. And so he would go and he would build these cities and construct these cities and gather men. And therefore, if he gathered enough men and if he gathered or built enough cities, eventually the cities that did not have Yah in their mindset, and did not have Yah at their forefront, and did not believe in Yah, and did not was not aware of there was an Elohim, then Nimrod could control that, and not only control it, but eventually he could outnumber those that did believe. It's sort of like today, no matter what corner of the earth you may go in, at times it seems and it appears as if uh, the non-believers outnumber the believers. That's what it appears, and that's what it seems like. Well, that's what Nimrod wanted. He had that type of mindset. He had a mindset in which he wanted to dominate. And anytime that you decide that you want to oppose or become defiant uh, to the laws or the Torah of Elohim, then that's a sign that you do not want to retain him in your knowledge. You don't want to retain him in your mindset. When you willfully neglect Torah, when you willfully decide to walk away from truth and morality and so forth, that's a people, that's a generation, that's a nation, that's a country that says we are in defiance. We don't want to retain and follow after Yah. And so that's the type of guy, or that's the type of man Nimrod was. And so that's why it was easy for him to go and build all of these cities and so forth, and from Shinar and forward. And so the thing is that it's a sign that he was a type of man that was very, very rebellious. Again, that's what we see in society. That's what we see even within Christendom. That's what we see, to be honest with you, in those who want to follow Torah. Sometimes we have a mindset in which we want to be defiant to Torah. Torah is real, Torah is set, but sometimes we try to skirt around certain things, and that's a sign that you want to be defiant. When you don't want to follow things appropriately in Torah, or the way the Torah is explaining it, or the way the Torah is designed, and the way the Torah is telling us, uh, and we fail to submit, that's a sign of defiance. And so we have to pray about that and make sure that we're right with Yah and that we're right with Torah. Now let's look at this. Now in in Genesis or Bereshith chapter 11, what we find here is some coded words. I like to use that term, coded words. In other words, there are certain things when you read the scripture, there are certain things that should jump out at you. That cause you to either research or cause you to ponder or cause you to um, search the scriptures to verify if these things are so, and even pray regarding such. But one of the things that really stuck out with me, again, I was reading from the ISR, but I want to read it from the King James Version, verse 4 of chapter 11. This is what it says in verse 4, chapter 11 of the King James. Now, it says, and they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top. Now, in the King James Version, the next two words is in italics. It uses the words may reach. Now, that was inserted, okay? It was inserted. And when you read that, it gives the implication as if they are really trying to reach the heavens where Yah abides, or where the abode of Yah is. And so that totally um, messes up a person's beliefs and theology, actually seeing what is happening here in this verse. But when you take out those italics, it reads this: and let us make us, or rather, whose top unto heaven. You see that? Let me read it again. It says, and they said, go to, let us build us a city and tower whose top may reach unto heaven. Now take out the italics, it reads this. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top unto heaven. So that changes the whole mindset, the whole scenario of what's happening here. So, well, what are you saying, Brother Isaac? The word may top or top unto heaven. Basically, it says a lot of things. Back in um, the ancients of time, if I can use that. Back in the ancients of time, when there was no written Torah, men followed the heavens. And what I mean by the heavens is that the scripture teaches that he set signs, or rather, he sets stars, he sets planets, he sets um, the sun, the moon. All of this is for signs and for seasons. And so the signs and the season speaks to men on what to do, how to do, and when to do. Now, in the book of Psalms, Psalms 19, it says that the heavens declare, from a King James Version standpoint, the glory of God, or the glory of Yah, the glory of Elohim. The heavens declare. The heavens declare, in other words, it is constantly rehearsing and sharing the glory or the esteem of Yah, who he is, his plans. And so when Nimrod is looking and he's gathering the people and he says, we're going to build a city whose top unto the heaven, he's actually saying that I'm going to enclose the top of this tower with the heavens. And what is the heaven? There's a Hebrew or a Jewish term of Mazzaroth, which is the constellations, the zodiac, and so forth, because that's all they had in that day. And it was that Mazzaroth, or the zodiac, the stars, the constellations, that was speaking the plan or speaking the plans of Yah. And they understood that. However, to get around the obedience to Yah, what they would do was make the Mazzaroth their object of not only worship, but their object of divine direction. In other words, that was a sign that they did not want to follow Yah. It was a sign that we want to oppose Yah. Remember, Nimrod was an opposer. He was defiant. He was a defiant man, and he did not like to retain Yah. And here's something that I want to share. Anytime there is a people again, or a person that is defiant, that is a sign that they did not want to follow Yah. They do not want to follow Torah. If you are defiant, even though the truth is laid out before you, that you are defiant when you decide, I am rejecting truth. I am rejecting truth. But I want to share this with you. It just did not start with Nimrod. Let's go to Bereshith, Genesis chapter 4. Let's look at verse 25 and verse 26. Verse 25 and verse 26. I'm reading again from the ISR. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Sheth. For Elohim has appointed me another seed instead of Abel or Habel, because Cain or Cain had killed him. And to Sheth, to him also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh or Enosh. Then it was begun to call on the name of Yah. That's where it began. Now, again, in the English translation, let me look at it from the King James, and I want to read it from there. And it gives the impression that it was at this time men began to call upon the true name of Elohim. That's how it is implied, but actually that's not the result, or that's not what is happening here. What is happening here is that he began to rebel. He began to profane. He began to set aside something else instead of Yah. Something that he would rather call his Yah, his Elohim, instead of the true Elohim. Now, from the King James Version, it's read here in verses 25 and 26. It says, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Sheth. For God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enoch. And then it says, then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. Well, see, it gives the impression that men begin to call on the name of the Lord as if this is the first time they begin to use the name of Yahuwah, or Yahweh. But in all actuality, what this really means is they begin to profane. Now, I want to read something here from one of the Jewish commentators. And it says that they use the words God, or their God. This suggests that they call the stars and the idols their gods, and they begin to worship them. You see that? They begin to call the stars, begin to have idols, and they begin to worship them. Why? Because they did not want to retain Yah as their Elohim. So now when you refer that back to Nimrod and the Tower of Babel, we can see that they wanted to top the tower with the stars, with the constellation, with the Mazzaroth, with the zodiac, because they speak, they declare, they prophesy, because that's what the word uttereth, the King James used the word uttereth in Psalms 19, verse 1 and verse 2. Uttereth is the Hebrew word yibah, which means to prophesy, and they knew that. And so they felt, well, we don't have to have Yah in our lives. We'll just use the constellation. We'll just use Mazzaroth. And sometimes people are like that. They do not want to retain Yah, so they put aside the Torah. We don't need the Torah. One of the main things that is an opposer to Torah, and this may sound funny, one of the main things that is an opposer to Torah is the name Jesus, is the religion of Christianity. And so they use that. Well, we don't need Torah because we have Jesus. Well, in all actuality, Jesus was not his real name. Everyone knows that. I don't have to keep repeating that. And I don't have to play to someone's game on that. But actually, the Messiah, the Mashiach, Yeshua, actually was a Torah believer, Torah keeper. He was the living Torah. And so the thing is that when you don't want to retain that, and you don't want to retain the truth of Yah, no matter who you are, no matter your ethnicity, what you're saying is that I want to set up something opposite of what Yah has already set up. I don't want to retain him. I don't want to retain Elohim. I don't want to retain truth. I want to substitute. Anytime you have a substitute, that's a sign of rebellion. Shalom, shalom. See you next time on Scripture Nugget.